Hello, everybody. My name is Professor Jeff Winkle, and just made this short video to welcome you to Classical Mythology, Humanities 212 here at GRCC. And I just wanted to run through a few things before we launch into our course next week, and give you an idea of kind of what to expect, what to look for, some things that you can do before we get going next week, and also just to kind of tell you a little bit about myself. Without further ado, welcome to everyone. I hope that you're excited about studying mythology with me this semester. It's arguably, I think it's probably my favorite class to teach. I love the subject. I've been enamored with the subject for quite a long time. My background happens to be in ancient Greek and Roman studies. That's what my doctorate is in, and with a particular specialty in ancient religion, which will bring into our study of mythology over the course of the next several weeks. I have traveled extensively throughout Italy and Greece. We'll be bringing in lots of kind of archaeology into our study of mythology this winter and spring, and I try to do my best to kind of put you there. I think it's we can't you know put the class on an airplane and go over to Athens, although that would be ideal. But I'll do my best to kind of put you in these places, in these temples, in these ruins where the ancient Greeks worshipped and these gods and told their stories and performed their stories and sang their songs. I'm a firm believer. I'm a visual. I'm an audio learner, and I've become that kind of teacher too. And so I want to try to make this as kind of tangibly ancient and real as much as possible. Now, just some nuts and bolts. This online class we'll be doing together is what we call an asynchronous class. That is, we will not have regular class meeting times where everybody's on Zoom and a little picture on the screen. We won't be doing that. So what we'll have is once the course Blackboard site opens, and I hope to have that open and available to you all by the end of this week. Each week of the semester will have its own folder. And in that folder, you'll find a number of things that I'm asking you to do and complete by the end of that week. And so that's how we'll kind of conduct the course. My hope is I will have kind of an open, kind of either Google Meets or Zoom office hours every Friday. I'll just keep that open for a few hours every Friday, and if you want to pop in and ask a personal question at any time, you may do so. But of course, just shoot me an email if you have questions about anything throughout the course. So each week will contain a number of things for you to do, readings to accomplish, quizzes on those readings. Some weeks we'll have reading responses where I'll ask kind of a forum question about a particular play or poem or story that we're talking about. And each week will include video lectures from myself as well. And I'll keep these folders open as the course goes on. I'll certainly keep things open longer at the beginning of the course so people can catch up if you need some more time to get books, the course texts, get used to the rhythm of the course. But once we get a few weeks in, I'll expect that you'll be able to kind of open up a week's folder at the beginning of the week and complete the work assigned within that folder by the end of that week. There's a couple of course texts that I'm asking you to acquire. This will be our anchor text, Classical Myth by Barry Powell. I can never remember if this is the latest edition. I always assign the latest edition, but again, if you want to save money, which I'm always in favor of students doing, by buying kind of a cheaper, earlier edition, that's fine. Sometimes the page numbers in the assignments won't match up, quite as nicely. But as these editions go on, there's not that much that changes between them. So if you're able to get the latest edition, I encourage you to do so. But if you want to get an earlier edition, I believe the 8th, maybe the 9th is the latest one. Please feel free to do so. The other text I'm asking you to get is this translation of Homer's Odyssey. We'll be reading Homer's Odyssey in its entirety. This is a translation from Hackett Publishing by the translator Stanley Lombardo. It's a really good translation. Students tend to like it. It's very readable. It's one of those translations from the ancient Greek that kind of threads that needle between being very readable, very easy to digest, particularly for students who are completely new to this kinds of stuff. And again, I assume no prior knowledge of mythology of any of you, though I'm guessing some of you will have some. So it threads the needle between that and also staying really close to the Greek. It's a very good translation. Lombardo doesn't kind of go off on his own and kind of tell his own story. Again, I know that the Odyssey, I'm sure for some of you that you may have read it in high school, or either in the whole or in the part. So you might have another translation lying around. And again, if you want to save money and hang on to that translation, that's totally fine. That doesn't bother me at all. Just know that when it comes to quizzes and tests, if I'm referring to, if I use maybe a quote from a text that asks you to identify the speaker, or as part of a story, I will be using Lombardo's translation. So again, if you are able to get this one is you should be able to find it fairly reasonably priced, either online or at the GRCC bookstore. I think this should be in the reach of most people. So these books are available. You can order them from the GRCC bookstore. You can also find them on Amazon. And again, I encourage you to kind of scour um, the interwebs to find used copies, rentable copies, whatever kind of suits you and your budget best. So just some of the topics we'll be covering this semester. We'll be talking about creation myths. What did the ancient Greeks think of where did the world come from? Where did the gods come from? Where did human beings come from? What are the moral quandaries that arise when we start considering these stories? Like I said, we'll be reading some ancient epic. We'll be talking a lot about Homer, who is, for all intents and purposes, where kind of Greek literature begins, the most ancient of Greek poets whose poetry survives. And like I said, we'll be reading his Odyssey in its entirety. Of course, you can't have a classical mythology course without talking a lot about the various Greeks and goddesses. And my hope is we'll be able to spend a decent amount of time over the weeks taking a concentrated look at the main Olympian deities, that, as we call the canonical 12 Olympian deities that populate Greek mythology. We'll be talking a lot about kind of ancient cult and religion. Like I said, this is a topic that's of deep interest to me, and I'm very interested. Of course, a classical mythology course should be a class about stories, right? And reading the stories is what is so attractive about a class like this. These stories are very very old, but they continue to fascinate and intrigue us. But I don't want this to be just a class about narratives. It is in large part, but I also want to kind of try to answer that question. What did it mean to believe in these gods? What did it mean to worship these gods? How did the Greeks perceive these deities? Were they in agreement about these kinds of things? You have this kind of this wild polytheistic system where you have you have kind of the 12 main Olympian deities, but you have dozens of other kind of minor deities and daimons and spirits. How did that work? How did that function? So we'll consider that component to mythology as well. We'll be reading some Greek tragedy. One of the many firsts in the Western tradition that the Greeks provided us with was theater, and their tragic plays overwhelmingly were retellings of famous Greek mythological stories. So we'll be considering drama and theater as an avenue for producing and telling these stories. We'll spend towards the end of our time together will be our specific look at kind of some of the greatest hits we might say of the Greek hero stories. Heracles, probably most people know him better by his Roman name Hercules, same guy. Jason, Theseus, Perseus. We'll all be looking at all of their adventures and again try to map some sort of meaning and interpretation onto these things and continually ask ourselves. Why do we keep coming back to these stories? We'll be also kind of talking about the influence of Greek myth in popular culture. We'll be watching together the Coen brothers film "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou," which maybe some of you have seen. If you haven't, you're in for a treat. It's a great film, but it's a retelling of Homer's Odyssey, but set in the American South in the 1930s. Stars George Clooney as our kind of our Odysseus figure in that. So why do we keep going back to this ancient well of narrative to keep telling stories and retelling stories and reshaping stories, but kind of keeping this core of Greek myth there? What's going on there, and what does it mean about our own culture that we keep doing this? And then, like I said, lots of archaeology. We'll be looking at lots of ancient temples and ruins and places. Like I said, to kind of make this as much of a kind of a tangible, almost travel log experience, in looking at mythology kind of on the ground. What did it mean? What did it look like? What did it feel like to be there, as best as we can? Some of this stuff is impossible. The distance between us and the ancient Greeks is one of lots of chronology, lots of cultural differences. But we'll do our best to kind of navigate these waters together. And I'm really excited about doing this with you. So have a look, take a look for the Blackboard site to be ready for perusal. I'm hoping by this Friday. Blackboard is down right now. They're doing some refurbishing and using some new software. But look for it this Friday. I'll try to open it for it to be available. You can have a look at the syllabus. And of course, shoot me an email if you have any questions. Jeffrey Winkle, JEFFREYWINKLE at grcc.edu. And I look forward to seeing you virtually and hearing from you soon.